Season 2 Part 1 begins with Rimuru breaking the news to everyone that he's going to leave soon, since it's the final semester. He promises everyone that he'll visit them sometimes. He hands over a book to Tis as well as the control of the class, whereas Kenya asks him what he's going to be doing next. He answers that he's a busy slime and bids farewell to the class before leaving. Rimuru hangs out with Ranga as the two teleport back to Tempest and talk about Rimuru's life after he got reincarnated as a slime. The two hope that this place lasts a long time, now that Carrion has formed a non-aggression treaty with Tempest. Carrion asks Rimuru to send an ambassador to each other's countries, and he sends Benimaru as the embassy's leader, and Rieger as his secretary, which brings a tear to Rieger's eyes. Rimuru establishes a press conference and he gets up on stage with cheers and hooting of a massive crowd. He gives a horrible speech and then delegates from the Jura Federation Tempest departs to Orizania. Once the delegates head out, the people in Tempest start to prepare for the arrival of Eurazania delegates. The embassy from Eurazania arrives, bringing Albus the Golden Serpent and Sufia the White Tiger Claw. Sufia starts talking a lot of crap about humans and how Rimuru shouldn't associate with them. Yom takes offense to this, and so does Shion. A fight breaks out. Shion fights Sufia, whereas a character named Crucius starts fighting Yom instead. Shion starts charging up a maximum magic bullet, but Albus steps in and stops their battle. This was just a test to see if Rimuru and his people were worthy of the beast's respect. A welcoming party for the Eurazania embassy is held, and Albus's love for the apple brandy. Albus realizes that the fruit is limited, so she proposes that the fruit be sent from Eurazania to Tempest, whereas the Tempest liquor will be sent to Eurazania. The merchant overseer Dogman Kobe is made to be the overseer for trade negotiations with Albus and Sufia. The Eurazania delegates leave with some staying behind, including Crucius, whereas Benimaru and Rieger return. They bring news saying that Tempest is ahead of Eurazania in many ways. However, the agricultural aspects are much better there in Eurazania. We also learned that Benimaru had challenged Carrion to a fight, by the way, and he did lose since Carrion is pretty freaking overpowered. Rimuru, along with the Goblin Riders, Shion, Shura, the Dwarves, and Ranga, head to Dworgen. They head into Gazel's chambers. Meanwhile, we see Clayman with a crystal ball which has a recording of Rimuru versus Charybdis. He promises his agent, Majoran, that he'd return her heart on one last condition. In the meeting, Rimuru discusses with Gazelle that they're aiming to replace Falmouth as the major trade center. Next day, an announcement is made that Dworgen and the Tempest Nation are now allies, and our heroes get ready to leave. In the other end of the continent, Yom and Majoran have a light sparring contest, after which they become friends and head to the Tempest Nation. Yom and Majoran reach Tempest, and he tells everyone that Majoran will be their military advisor against magic, because they probably need help in that department. Rimuru passes all the kids in their exams. Rimuru speaks with guard Majolmi, and they form a safety pact with Balmer, meaning both nations will protect each other and come to each other's aid. Guard is a bit scared that Falmouth might be looking to invade them now that Tempest is becoming the trade center. Cut to Falmouth, and we see the king discussing the best strategies of attacking Tempest right now after seeing its growing influence. Archbishop Raymond is a new guy who comes up with a solid plan. They'll make it look like Tempest attacked a regular citizen from Falmouth and use it as a catalyst to attack them all. They will send 3 otherworlders joined by 100 knights. The 3 otherworlders are Shogo, Kirara, and Kyoya. Yom and Majoran are having some alone time. Later we see her being contacted by Clayman, who has control of her heart and is forcing her to be a double agent. He has one last job for her. If she doesn't do it, he'll kill her and Yom too. So he recons the area and returns with news, stating knights from Falmouth are approaching. The otherworlders arrive just after Benimaru and the rest are contacted by Albus to let their people stay in Tempest as refugees since Eurazania is heading to war with a demon lord named Malin. Kirora puts up a show and pretends someone grabbed her butt. Her ability called Bewilder allows her to make everyone believe her lies. Nobody believes her though, as Shuna and Shion arrive. A fight breaks out, and Majoran's orders from Clayman force her to turn the area into a non-magic area, cutting the city's communications off. Majoran gets caught by Crucius, but the truth is exposed. Yom walks in and hears everything, and tells Majoran that he loves her no matter what. Then she cuts off the comms anyways. The Archbishop then casts Prison Field over the whole area. Rimuru is caught in a barrier on his way back to Tempest, and he's approached by Hinata Shakaguchi, captain of the Holy Knights of the Empire Rubrios. Hinata says something in the lines of Tempest Nation's destruction must happen, so Rimuru has to die. In the Tempest Nation, the Otherworlders are kicking ass and bullying Shuna and Shion due to their magic being barred. Hinata turns out to be the former student of Shizu and believes Rimuru killed her. The fight takes every inch of Rimuru's power as he activates his gluttony ability as a last resort. Turns out Rimuru's monstrous form here was never himself. He just used it as a distraction so he could slip away mid-fight. Hinata was simply too powerful. He teleports nearby to some side characters and explains the situation. He then finds a way to head back to Tempest, where he intervenes with Benimaru trying to kill Majoran for disrupting their comms, while Grucius and Yom both fight to protect her. He stops the madness and agrees to hear her out. He doesn't understand her explanation, so she shows him the dead bodies of the many goblins that died in the massacre. He remembers that he had ordered them not to hurt humans in Season 1, which is why they didn't defend themselves, and that makes him feel a lot of guilt. Majoran tries to upset Rimuru into killing her, so he would leave Yom and Grucius out of it. He stays calm though and tries to understand her. During a conference, they come to a conclusion that the Holy Church and Falmuth planned this attack together, as the Holy Church hates monsters, whereas Falmuth wants to remain the trade center. Majoran then comes clean and tells them all about working for Clayman. Way too much happens in episode 8. It starts with the news that Shion and Gobzo were killed during the battle, so no more big bouncy boobs, and the series left for Rimuru to gawk at. The three adventurers from Season 1 return and tell Rimuru there's a way to bring dead people back to life. Zoe, on the other hand, discovers the Western Holy Church's armies all camped out around the city, guarded by magic devices. It turns out that there's a way to revive dead people if you become a Demon Lord, and Rimuru had already acquired a Demon Lord seed when he defeated the Orc disaster in Season 1. He has all the conditions marked, so he can transform into a true Demon Lord if he consumes 10,000 human souls. Conveniently, Falmuth forces begin to converge on the Tempest Nation. He tells Majoran to die, and stabs her in the heart after she gives Yom a kiss goodbye. It turns out he didn't kill her, just destroyed her heart and gave her an artificial heart of his own creation to rid her of Clayman's influence. Not to mention he's about to kill the entire Falmuth forces, including the king. So Yom is up for promotion as the new king of Falmuth. Everyone prepares for war. Majoran and Shuna are assigned to replace the barrier, and everyone else has a proper role in the plan. Benimaru, Gabadu, and Soe all decimated the knights on their side of the battlefield and destroyed the magical devices. The three Otherworlders are also attacked by our heroes. Geld beats up Shogo, meanwhile Hakuro kills Gyoya straight up. Shogo makes a run for it after Geld uses his riot ability. Shogo finds Kirara and kills her to use the survivor ability. That does nothing though. Geld kicks his ass down and Shogo regenerates, then he gets his ass kicked again and again and again and again until a new character named Razin appears. He takes Shogo and teleports out. All four magical devices are now destroyed. Shuna and Majoran recreate the barrier to keep the souls in. Now Rimuru prepares to kill the entire army. Before that though, Razin kills Shogo and takes over his body instead of helping him, making him the most powerful Majin in Falmuth's history. Rimuru is shown killing everyone and everything he lays eyes on in the final moments. Falmuth forces are a fish in the barrel due to the magical barrier, so they can't escape. He keeps killing them one by one, taking out hundreds and thousands and reaching closer to the 10,000 goal so he can transform into a Demon Lord. He even kills Razin and thus pushes the king to open negotiations. He tries to lie his way out of this, but Rimuru blows his arm off. Rimuru uses his new skill Merciless, which takes out any soldiers who give up in the face of battle. He takes out all the soldiers using this ability and is ready to transform into a Demon Lord. After his transformation, he summons 3 demons who aim to serve him, and all of his other followers will receive extra perks, now 2. They take the king, archbishop, and all other followers into custody, and Rimuru transforms from a slime into a demon slime. Then we go through a bunch of random bullshit about skills being upgraded. Merciless is traded for an upgraded Gluttony, which is then upgraded to the Beelzebub skill. It turns out Razin is still alive due to Shogo's survivor ability. Razin then gets bullied by Black, one of Rimuru's new demons, until he passes out. Rimuru's transformation completes, and he uses the magic kill's energies to resurrect everyone around him. But he doesn't have enough energy, so he uses the other 2 demons he had created earlier and uses their energy to use the spirit art of resurrection. He then passes out. Rimuru regains consciousness in Shion's arms, with her boobs resting on top of his jello head. His followers had all evolved into more powerful beings, along with his great sage ability, which transformed into an ability named Raphael. Cut to Malim and Urizania, as Carrion decides to take her on alone, while everyone else retreats. However, Demon Lord Frey jumps in and grabs Carrion from the back, and slits his throat, killing him. Urizania is entirely wiped out, but the citizens are brought to safety in Tempest. It turns out Frey was seen flying back to Clayman's domain after the fight had occurred. After the meeting, Black requests Rimuru to allow Black to serve him. Rimuru agrees to this and gives him the name Diablo, increasing his power level by a lot. Now, Rimuru has a few things on his mind, a few concerns, if you will. The inevitable showdown with Clayman is coming up, the aftermath of battling Falmuth and the king who's captured at the moment, as well as the Western Holy Church and Hinata Sakaguchi who are still after them. However, Raphael chimes in and tells Rimuru that everything's going to be fine, because Valdora is almost free. Raphael uses his soul energy to create a body double for Valdora's soul to inhabit, which turns him into a blonde Chad guy with red tattoos on his face. This is where part 1 ends and part 2 begins. Rimuru and Valdora arrive at the Jura Tempest Federation after Valdora's gotten his new body. Rimuru introduces Valdora to everyone, but no one believes it's him. Trainee arrives and shows respect to her lord Valdora. The citizens then celebrate their lord's arrival, while Rimuru explains to Benimaru and Rigurd how he freed Valdora and why he kept this secret. Shion turns into a better cook than ever before due to her new ultimate skill. After celebrating is over with, Rimuru talks to the Beast Keepers where they plan to save Carrion and defeat Demon Lord Clayman. During the meeting, the Dwarf King Gazel Dwargo arrives and tells them that the kingdom of Farmanes will attack them, so he came in with reinforcements. Rimuru explains that he's already taken care of it, but Errol Grimwald, Archduke of the Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian, arrives and attacks Rimuru. Erin arrives and stops him, apologizing for her father's actions. Now they're all part of this big meeting. We get a glimpse into the inner sanctum of the Holy Empire Ruberios. A man named Laplace is confronted by a vampire in priest robes. He gets torn to shreds by the vampire's red beam attack. In the next scene, Laplace is completely fine and holding an audience with Yuki Kagurazaka, the Free Guild's Grandmaster. Yuki notifies him that the transfer of the Alliance's president's soul into a homunculus is complete, and points Laplace to an elf woman named Kigali. Laplace laughs at the current form of the president when comparing it to her prior appearance, as he welcomes the president Kazarim back. He tells Yuki of the vampire attack in the inner sanctum that he faced, and Kigali realizes it's the demon lord Valentine, who also goes by the name Blood Tyrant. They decide to hold Walpurgis of the Demon Lords, since they had the required amount of Demon Lords in Clayman, Milim, and Frey. Meanwhile, in Tempest, meetings between the monsters and foreign leaders takes place. Everyone is shocked at the sight of Eldora, and Fuse faints out of pure shock. Gazelle and Erald request a private conversation with Rimuru, where Rimuru explains all the events leading up to the current moment. Erald promises friendly relations with Tempest while they create a fake story to tell the public regarding Falmuth's army's disappearance. Fuse is shocked again when he hears Rimuru fought Hinata Sakaguchi, and he wonders who sold him out to Hinata. He thinks of all the people who know his history with Shizu, and only Yuki comes to mind. Raphael confirms his suspicions that it was indeed Yuki. Rimuru and the rest of the people are still in the meeting. Rimuru shares his plans to back Yom as the new king of Falmuth. Gazelle tests him with a series of questions to see if he has what it takes to rule a kingdom, and Yom answers everything truthfully to the best of his abilities. Gazelle appreciates the young, aspiring king and likes his answers. Meanwhile, Erald begins to respect Rimuru as a man of honor after he hears Rimuru say that all he wants is a world that is truly consumed by peace, with no sadness, only prosperity, love, and smiles. Now united, Rimuru and his allies look forward to their biggest enemy, Clayman, who is currently preparing for the Walpurgis, the meeting of all the demon lords. As the meeting concludes, Ramiris enters with an ominous warning regarding the fate of the Tempest Nation. Ramiris warns the united leaders that she's been summoned to the Walpurgis. Shion, on the other hand, has been working her way around the prisoners through torture. And it works because she finds some genuinely critical information. She finds that the Western Holy Church plans to attack them in the name of God. Rimuru orders Diablo to help several of the leaders in escorting the prisoners back to their homeland. and to also make sure regarding the security matters there. The scout sightings come with a report that an army of 30,000 soldiers is approaching Tempest. Rimuru decides that their targets are the remaining Eurazanian refugees, who Clayman intends to kill in order to become a true demon lord. Although that doesn't matter because they're unable to stop the approaching attack. The talk is still on in Tempest, with all these species supporting Rimuru's decision to throw Clayman off. Raphael and Rimuru devise a plan to teleport the entire army and cut off Clayman's attack. However, Rimuru wants to end it before that is necessary, so Rimuru decides to attend the Walpurgis himself. Meanwhile, Diablo and Shion go against each other to see who's better to accompany Rimuru, but come to quick agreement over their respect for Rimuru. Rimuru decides to bring Shion and Ranga with him to the Walpurgis, while Ramiris takes Beretta and Trainee with her. Later, Rimuru and Raphael come up with a plan to teleport the Eurazanian citizens. He teleports them to Geld, who has created a safe place for the refugees to live in just the span of one night. Now, with the Eurazanian citizens and Tempest, the only thing to worry about was Clayman and his armies, who will take Rimuru's allied forces of 20,000 in open combat. It's time for no mercy. Now, Benimaru and the 20,000 travel to Eurazania to fight Clayman's army. Erald returned to Sarion, Gazelle returned to Dwargan, and Yom and Majoran headed to Falmuth with Diablo beside them. The remaining of our crew prepared for the Walpurgis. Meanwhile, Clayman uses Frey to make Milim wear a necklace, with which he uses a spell named Demon Marionette, which gives her complete control over Milim's actions. He now has the ultimate Demon Lord puppet that he can fully control. The pre-Walpurgis banquet begins with Demon Lord Platinum Saber, aka Leon Cronwell's arrival into the chamber of old friend Guy Crimson. They discuss their plans over Clayman and Rimuru, one of 4 true dragons. The white ice dragon Velzard makes her first appearance due to the news and fact that her brother, the storm dragon Veldora, has awakened, and Rimuru has a link to him for breaking his seal. Leon leaves, but Guy makes sure to ask Velzard if she would accompany her to Walpurgis. She declines, stating that she's not interested in it. It all adds up with the connection, which makes Walpurgis all the more interesting for the higher demon lords. The stage is set for the moment that will be defining this series unlike anything else. Rimuru continues with preparations for Walpurgis, including pouring the soul of Trainee into a doll made out of the driest tree. This evolves Trainee into a driest doll dryad, which grants her full freedom to go anywhere she wants, and will also allow her to accompany Ramiris without any concerns. Benimaru acquires the skill-born leader, which lets him read the enemy's movements efficiently. He also comes up with a plan to destroy Clayman's castle, which is believed to be behind the fog. Hokoro and Soe are meant to go, but Shuna insists on joining them. Though hesitant, Rimuru agrees to let her join them, as this is the perfect window to strike, and also the best opportunity to find Demon Lord Carrion and rescue him. They are to attack right after Walpurgis begins. Benimaru appoints Albus as the secondary commander for the battle. Now Benimaru and his forces lead Clayman's army into a trap set by Geld. As the army falls into the trap, the 3 Beast Keeters head out to attack. Gambidu uses Vortex Crush to take out a large portion of the army, and then the rest are faced by Geld as they try to climb out of the hole. It's a one-sided battle as Clayman's army gets absolutely decimated at the hands of our heroes. Benimaru orders Albus, Sophia, and Fabio to bring them the head of their enemy's leader. Fabio takes the fight directly to Footman and Tear. Geld joins him and the two fight, whereas Albus has located Yamaza of the 5 Fingers, but he deceives her with a surprise attack. However, Gobita and the Goblin Riders arrive to help Albus out, but they quickly realize that Albus can take them on her own, and they leave her to decimate her opponent. Hermes is throwing hands against Gabidu, who is proving to be a tough opponent for the Dragon Faithful. Meanwhile, Sophia is not having the best of luck against head priest Midray himself. She's having trouble keeping up with his speed and strength. Gabidu, on the other hand, defeats Hermes and has him at the tip of his trident. Midray then takes on both Gabidu and Sophia at the same time. Albus, on the other hand, is showing Yamza what true pain tastes like, until he receives his trump card, a shadow clone. It turns out, though, Albus is still confident that it's a shitty trump card, and it turns out that it's actually quite bad, because she pulls out her beast form and rips the Dragon Faithful to shreds, and disintegrates Yamza's doppelganger and puts him on his knees by breaking his limbs. He obviously surrenders. What else can you do in a situation like that? However, Clayman feeds him an orb as a puppet master, which turns him into a bloated monster known as Charybdis. Midray stops fighting Gabidu and Sophia at the sight of Charybdis, and they team up to repel the monster's fury. Albus stays the fight, but Benimaru arrives to the scene and launches a full frontal assault by using Vanish Hell Flare. He destroys the monster in one hit, completely disintegrating it into non-existence. Benimaru is almost about to attack Midray and Hermes as well as the Dragon Faithful, but he's stopped by Gabidu and Sufia, who tell him they're the servants of Lady Milim. On the other end of the battle, Geld and Fabio are being bullied by Footman and Tyr, until the two claimant supporters escape by teleporting away. The two lay on the ground, happy they survived and swearing they'll win next time. In Tempest, Rimuru, Shion, and Ranga are preparing for the Walpurgis with the help of Shuna. Shuna then takes her leave and teleports away from them, so she can aid with the attack on Claimant's castle. Rimuru is briefed about who will be at the Walpurgis, as Veldora talks about how he has no interest in attending such events. He recalls all the demon lords he's fought, as well as the demon lords he remembers, flaunting his strength. During their conversation, a demon with the same presence as Diablo enters the scene. She's a woman named Misery, who was ordered by Demon Lord Guy Crimson to bring Rimuru to him. A portal opens up and all 6 of the heroes enter through it, leaving Veldora behind. In Eurazania, Soe, Hakoru, and Shuna are looking for Claimant's castle within the fog. They fall into a trap and a swarm of skeleton soldiers spawn around them. It is led by Adelman, the index finger of Claimant, also known as the White King. He orders them to leave or submit their lives to him. They realize they have no escape other than to defeat Adelman. So Hakoru attacks Adelman but is met by an undead swordsman. Soe tries to launch a surprise attack on the White King but is delayed by an undead dragon, known as the Death Dragon. Soe uses his Mystic Thread Strike to tear the dragon to pieces, but it just resurrects back into its regular form. It seems that the dragon and the army's soul is inside Adelman, so Shuna decides to take him all on her own, while the two warriors keep the attackers at bay. She's attacked by the skeletal soldiers, but repels them with Alignment Field. A 1 versus 1 battle between Adelman and Shuna begins. Magical strikes are thrown left and right, attacks are repelled and pushed back, counterattacks are thrown. However, Shuna quickly overpowers the White Knight and uses Overdrive, and decimates him entirely. The trio now has its eyes on Claimant's castle, but it turns out Adelman is still alive and swears his complete allegiance to Princess Shuna, who had proven herself as a champion of magic, who later makes them realize Rimuru is who they should be worshipping. Adelman takes them to Claimant's castle. Rimuru arrives at the scene where Walpurgis is about to begin. He takes a seat and starts seeing the demon lords arrive to the scene. Guy Crimson is already there in a chair. The giant race demon lord Dagarel enters, followed by demon lord Valentine the vampire, as well as a yawning young man who turns out to be the demon lord Dino. Ramaris and Dino start arguing, but it seems they're happy to see each other after a while. Demon Lord Frey also joins the scene with a lion-headed harpy with her, which Raphael suspects to be Carrion. Leon stands behind Rimuru and they both have a heated conversation about Shizu. Milim enters the scene along with Claimant accompanying her. He hits Milim in front of everyone and this shocks everyone at the Walpurgis. The two have a seat and the Walpurgis begins. At the Walpurgis, Claimant tries to portray Rimuru as an evil, conniving little brat whose entire goal is to wreak havoc and create chaos. He talks about how Carrion planned to destroy things with the help of Rimuru and lured him into doing all of this, as well as destroying the armies of Falmuth. He also mentions how Milim defeated Carrion to save Claimant because she loved him so much. He then says that Rimuru is a lowly magic-born, playing a part of a demon lord. However, he messes up by saying that Majorin was killed by Rimuru, which was Rimuru's plan all along. Rimuru shows them proof of Majorin's safety as well as Yamsa's transformation into Charybdis at Claimant's control. Claimant tries to convince the whole Walpurgis that Rimuru is a liar, but no one seems to be believing any of what Claimant is spouting. Rimuru gets up and gives a speech about peace and all that good shit, and then he declares Claimant as his enemy. He challenges Claimant to a battle, and the Demon Lords agree they'll purge Claimant if Rimuru wins. Claimant agrees to the battle, but in his stead, he sends a mind-controlled Milim forward. Rimuru had already planned to break Milim out of Claimant's mind control, so he would do it through a tough fight now. Claimant spawns 3 demon beasts, a man in black robe, Milim to fight alongside him, quickly outnumbering Rimuru, Ranga, and Shion. Rimuru fights Milim, meanwhile Shion takes on the robed figure and Claimant. Ranga takes on all 3 of the demon beasts using his doppelgangers. However, this seems to not be enough, as our 4 heroes are fighting for their lives. Beretta jumps into battle to aid Rimuru, and he helps Shion repel the robed android's attacks. However, Milim quickly overpowers Rimuru and lands a killing blow. But at the very last second, Veldora jumps in and takes the hit for him. As it turns out, he's seemingly unfazed by the heavy hit. Rimuru orders Veldora to spar with Milim after talking about her being controlled, and heads back to Ranga. He sees that the beasts on the side of Clayman have curses on them, where they have been mind-controlled. Rimuru frees the beasts of their curse. On the other side of the arena, Beretta has managed to take the android completely apart. Veldora, on the other hand, is just using Street Fighter II moves on Milim to simply play with her, along with a Kamehameha. Honestly, one of the best scenes I think I've ever seen in an anime. This shit was hilarious. Xion and Clayman still fight as Clayman is doing everything in his power to beat her, but she's just too strong for him, or rather, he's too weak. Clayman turns into his beast form, but he's still too weak for Rimuru and Veldora, and Milim reveals that she was never in his control anyways, and that she was just playing Clayman like a fiddle. Xion carves through Clayman like butter, and they're teleported back to the Walpurgis. Carrion is alright and safe. Rimuru and Carrion shake hands as the peace between Tempest and Eurysania is now written in stone. However, just as things seem to be over, Clayman finally begins to awake as a true demon lord. Rimuru says he will defeat Clayman all on his own. Clayman launches a ball of dark energy at Rimuru, but Rimuru uses Beelzebub and digests it, using it to create a barrier to trap them both inside. Now they must fight to the death. After getting a heavy beating by Rimuru, Clayman tries to crawl away screaming and crying, yelling for help. Rimuru uses Beelzebub, draining Clayman of all of his energy until there's nothing left. Rimuru is recognized as a true demon lord at the Walpurgis. Milim is made the demon lord in charge of Eurysania, whereas Carrion simply lives off as the king of the Beast Kingdom instead. Rimuru decides a new name for the Demon Council, which he names the 8-Star Demon Lord's Octogram. Elsewhere in Ruberios, Laplace is getting chased by Hinata, who thinks that the lack of the Demon Lord's absence means a lack of security. Roy returns from the Walpurgis, who is confronted by Laplace. Roy tells him that Clayman is dead, after which Laplace tears his heart out after hearing of his friend's doomed fate. He laughs hysterically. The Kingdom of Tempest, Eurysania, Valmuth, Blumond, and even the Dark Lords all prosper in the time of peace after Clayman's demise. The people cheer for Rimuru as their savior. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.